Once upon a time, in a cozy little village on the edge of a vast forest, lived a cheerful girl named Little Red Riding Hood. She was named after the beautiful red cloak she always wore, a gift from her beloved grandmother. One sunny morning, Little Red Riding Hood's mother said, "Your grandmother is feeling unwell. Could you take her this basket of goodies? But remember, stay on the path and do not talk to strangers." Little Red Riding Hood promised to heed her mother's advice and set off to her grandmother's house. The forest was alive with the songs of birds and the rustling of leaves. As she walked, she picked wildflowers and hummed happy tunes. But deep in the forest lurked a sly wolf, watching Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf approached her, pretending to be friendly. "Where are you going, little girl?" he asked. "I'm going to my grandmother's house," she replied innocently, forgetting her mother's warning. The cunning wolf thought of a wicked plan. He would get to the grandmother's house first. So, he pointed Little Red Riding Hood to a longer path and hurried off. When he reached the grandmother's house, the wolf tricked her and locked her in the closet. He then dressed in her clothes and lay in her bed, waiting for Little Red Riding Hood. Eventually, Little Red Riding Hood arrived and found, to her surprise, that her grandmother looked very strange. "What big ears you have," she said. "All the better to hear you with, my dear," replied the wolf. "What big eyes you have," she continued. "All the better to see you with, my dear," said the wolf. "And what big teeth you have," she exclaimed. "All the better to eat you with," growled the wolf, jumping out of bed. Just then, a woodcutter, passing by the cottage, heard the commotion and rushed in. He scared the wolf away and rescued Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother from the closet. Little Red Riding Hood learned an important lesson that day about the importance of listening to her mother and not talking to strangers. The village rejoiced that Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother were safe, and they lived happily ever after.